Marshall.
I'm Andrew.
That's me.
Hey!
It's me, so
That's
I know
pretty
hard to believe.
Really?
Let's see, I'm a FRC alum, on 900 when I was a student, so way forever ago. Started in 2003. I've been mentoring 900 since I graduated. Terrible thing.
When did you graduate?
I graduated Science and Math in 2005.
How old are you?
Old.
You look like 20, like maybe 18. Like, I'm not.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Yeah,
No, I'm not kidding though. That's the funny part. You're like, you don't look that old.
Thank you. Good genetics, I guess. All the clean living I do. So yeah, I graduated from NCSM, went to NC State. I caused trouble for everybody. I worked for this tiny little company called VMware that does virtualization software. So they were a lot of fun. I had a blast working for them. That's our cool new logo for the zebra corns. I really like it.
So I'm Andrew Schreiber. I'm an alumni from Team 27. I'm only slightly less ancient than Marshall. I'm a judge advisor, or was a judge advisor in the New England district. I've judged at Champs a couple of years. I am, the nice way of putting it is a sustainability advocate. A lot of other people would say the word curmudgeon or jerk.
He's a jerk.
If you ever go on Chief Delphi and you see someone screaming about sustainability, it's probably me.
Does everybody in the room know what Chief Delphi is?
No.
Everybody not?
No. Isn't that where like the things about robotics?
Yeah,
I don't know. I was looking at that for a week.
It's a forum for FRC mostly. Though FTC pops up, FLL pops up. It's a lot of first stuff.
Not like
That's true. I try to as well.
I'm a system engineer at the MITRE Corporation, which is the largest corporation you've never heard of.
Yeah.
We're not for profit.
They're really cool though.
Yeah, we do some really fun stuff. I do fraud, waste, and abuse detection for healthcare claims, which is actually a lot more fun than you'd think it would be. I get to try and break the healthcare system on a daily basis. And I'm tentatively a mentor for Team 323 out of Mountain Home, Arkansas. The math doesn't work out for anyone. I'm in North Carolina. I live in Florida, and I mentor a team in Arkansas. So someone help me figure that one out. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of FRC because we've got a lot of young people in the room that maybe don't remember or weren't born when FRC kind of started. So realistically, you can divide FIRST's history, or FRC's history more accurately, into about 5 epochs. 92 to 97, the team numbers weren't static. A lot of things changed. We'll talk a little more about it, but the robot sizes changed. The robot control systems drastically changed. It was a very different world. 1997, they became static. 97 to 2005 is kind of what I call the baby era.
Let's
do this.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do that.
We'll do it that way. So, first started in 92, FRC.
Yeah,
started in 92, specifically. To give you guys an idea, some of you, I suspect, were not alive then.
Except for us.
So that's okay though. But to give you guys an idea about the world back then, genuinely, Windows 3.1 had just been released. So, which Windows 3.1 is typically considered the first real version of Windows, what would look like Windows to even you guys.
It's installed off.
It had a start menu, but I guess we're back to having a start menu now. Yeah. So I don't know. The Apple Newton, which was kind of like an iPhone.
It's the precursor to the iPhone. It actually looks very similar to it.
Was released, and in fact had handwriting recognition on it, which is kind of cool. Linux was released under the GPL in 92, so Linux being the operating system that underpins the Rio and pretty much everything. IBM introduced the ThinkPads, the very first ThinkPad, which was not really a laptop, really it was what would be called a portable computer. And the CPUs at the time, specifically like latest and greatest, the highest end thing you could pretty much get was the Intel 486 DX2, so which ran at a whopping 66 megahertz, and its transistor count was 1.2 billion. That's important.
We'll keep these numbers. I'm actually gonna write them down here so we can compare them.
Yeah, we're gonna.
We compare everything based off of this, so
it's important to understand these things. So we will come back to this, I promise. So
let's talk about FIRST in 92. That may, I apologize for the quality of some of these pictures. Digital cameras do not really
I was
exist.
gonna say, we didn't have the technology.
Yeah.
Like, we had to chisel this out on a tablet, like, it was a stone tablet, like, let me be clear.
So, does that look like FRC today to anyone?
No.
Not really. It reminds me of mini.
It looks more like
FTC, right?
So what may shock you is this was actually FTC scale. They were 18 by 18 robots. It was on a corn field. That is actually pieces of corn. The control system was not owned by the teams. You didn't have your control system. You got it at the event.
Yep.
There was only one event. It was in a gym in New Hampshire. And you didn't have these fancy PWMs or speed controllers. You had on or off. I don't even think you had reverse. I really think it was just on or off.
It was also, there was no wireless, you were tethered to the robot. You can actually see the cables in there, so.
That's perfect.
Well, you know.
So that's where we started, 22 teams.
So, skip forward a little bit, get into a little more modern, right? So 97, team numbers become permanent, it's the first time. So prior to this, team numbers were not permanent. So you got a team number every year, but it was just for the purposes of the event you were going to. The way they got the team numbers originally was by taking an Excel spreadsheet that was sorted by the sponsors alphabetically, and literally going through in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth.
So, in fact, Team 1 was founded in 1997. There are teams significantly older than it.
Yes.
But they're Team 1.
Yep. So it was not necessarily the best thing, but it worked. So at this point, we're up to 155 teams. So quite a bit of growth.
So now we're in 1999, and I'm going to be honest, not a whole lot of interesting things happened in 1999 from an FRC perspective. But it is important because this was the first year for the first LEGO League. It was a small pilot. There was just one event, again, in a small gym in New Hampshire. And it was with the old yellow RCX bricks that had just been introduced. It was a wooden field. Everything was handmade. And there were like 2 challenges. Very different than the FLL we see today, but this is where it started.
Yeah, I was going to put something in here about FRC, but it doesn't really matter. There's not much that happens. The control systems are slowly starting to evolve. Some things are changing, but it's...
At this point, it's all in P-Basic on an 8-bit microprocessor.
Which we get to on the next slide. But 269 teams, so we keep increasing team count.
Oh, dang.
So skip forward a little bit further, 2003, right? 2003, we get the PIC 18F. It's the first microcontroller that we've got. This is the IFI system, I believe.
Yep.
So it's the introduction of the IFI system. IFI is Innovation First International. They are now the parent of VEX.
And Hexbug.
And Hexbug and
Rack Solutions.
Rack Solutions, and there's one other, I think.
No, but they do all the battle bots.
Yeah. So
Speed controllers.
they do. They do a lot of cool stuff. So anyway, the PIC 18F is the microcontroller. It's written in BASIC. No, this is C.
Was the first year we got C.
That's right, this is C. There's no math.h library though, which is kind of sad.
So you didn't have sine, you didn't have cosine, you didn't have absolute value. If you wanted to use any of that stuff, you had to write it yourself.
Yep. So all of those functions you had to write. So I mean, we were banging rocks together. So this is tough.
And yet,
I remember this game. I remember our robot from it. It was kind of bad. It was kind of like Recycle Rush in the sense of stacking totes, except nobody actually stacked totes. We all just knocked them over. So
this was also the first year of autonomous. So up until this point, robots have been completely teleoperated. This year they introduced a 15-second autonomous at the beginning. And interesting notes in history, Wild Stang 111 out of Illinois produced a library called Stang Positioning System for their swerve drive that they were running despite having no math libraries. And so some of the stuff the cheesy poofs are doing now, Wild Stang was doing on that processor in 2003.
Yep. You'll also, I think that is an actual field.
No, that is Technocat's field.
Is it? No, it is, you're right.
Yep,
So,
that's the
I was going
field.
to say, the chicken wire stuff was I thought that it heated up on the real field.
It did. So
Yeah.
back in 2003, a lot of teams built out of their sponsors.
Yep.
And the sponsor would have full fields built for them to competition spec. Interesting note in this picture, I guess I kind of picked it by accident, but it does show something interesting. Most teams didn't do practice spots in 2003. So the Technocats were one of the few teams that did practice spots. But this year they did something very different. They actually built two completely different robots and crated and shipped off, because we didn't bag them, we crated and shipped it to a holding center somewhere.
Yep.
The one on the right was their actual competition bot. The one on the left was a prototype ball drive. So that is a precursor to a lot of the swerve stuff you see these days. I guess interesting note. Andy Mark, for those of you guys who know Andy Mark. Andy Baker used to mentor Technocats.
Yep.
This is one of the first shifting transmissions in FRC history on that bot. So if you've ever bought a shifting transmission from Andy Mark, it came out of that bot effectively.
It's true, we're not all that different than we were then. So things are a little better, but for the most part, it's pretty similar
We
mechanically.
say that, and then we get to the next slide.
We do, yeah.
Everything
So,
changes.
This is the point where if there is a clear delineation in FRC history when things actually change, it's 2005. 2005 is the first year of 3 versus 3 play. So we hit the 120-pound weight limit that we all know and love.
Previously it was 135 pounds, but your battery counted.
Yes. The sim motor makes it into the kit. And we had the sim motor prior to this, I believe.
We had the big
but
sims.
We did have the big sims. This is the point where we got multiple in the kit and they were good. So we went from using drill motors and drill transmissions and trying to figure out how to adapt things to a standard motor mount that mounts with 2 number 1032 bolts.
Honestly,
so,
when we were making this slide, we ran out of space on the slide. We didn't want it to be full of bullets, but also introduced the first kit bot that didn't require 2 PhDs to put together.
Yep.
So you guys are familiar with the kit bot, right? You bolt it together, you've got hand tools, you can put it together. Prior to this year, you needed a bandsaw lathe.
Yep.
There was also the first real COTS transmission was released this year, the Copioli new transmission, which made coupling things to your drivetrain super easy.
Yep. So VEX was introduced as well, along with the CMU cam, which is kind of the precursor to what is now the Pixie.
Yeah.
But the reason the CMU cam is important, it was included in the kit of parts that year, and you will notice this thing in the middle of the field here, that's called a Tetra, and the green on it is actually, it notes that it's a Vision Tetra, which means that it was an object that you could go track. So it was not retroreflective tape, you did not have giant green LEDs on your robot, you had literally a green target that you were going after. Very, very, very few teams did anything with those.
Nobody ever scored in competition.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah, very few teams even attempted it. The camera was almost impossible to use, and it was very unreliable. So,
Remember, we're doing all this on 8-bit microprocessors with
Yep.
20,000 transistors.
so
Does anyone want to point out what's different about these robots than what you built these days?
There's no bumpers.
There's no bumpers. Those are wedges. Robots in this era are more like battle bots than modern FRC bots.
Which is good. Which is actually pretty good.
It is and it isn't, but this is the first year bumpers were optional. The catch is, they counted against your weight.
yes. So a lot of teams, particularly the West Coast Drive style robots, would mount them forward of their robot and backward of their robot. So they would put something there, typically steel bars or aluminum bars of some variety to take brute force hits. So.
Okay. And we're at 988 teams. We're
Yep.
about to cross 1,000 teams here.
So
What's up?
How
Yep.
many teams were in 2003?
787.
787.
There won't be a quiz on any of
No,
this.
promise.
If it is, it's all online anyway. So let's talk about 2009. I try and pretend this year didn't exist. But this is the first year of the Compact Rio. This is when we moved away from the IFI system.
Yep.
And we started being able to use languages like Java. Actually, I don't think Java was supported in 09. It was C++ or LabVIEW that year.
I think so, yeah.
So we've got the Compact Rio, which is 23 million transistors. You wanna continue?
Yeah. Are you? All right, you got it. So yeah, 23 million transistor count for the Compact Rio. So the chip itself is designed for automotive purposes. The CPU that it houses, PowerPC chip, actually manufactured by Freescale. But that's not super important. What is important is the field itself changed a little bit. They flipped out the carpet for basically as HDPE or something.
No, it's
So,
lining from a bathtub.
there we go. Anyway, it's plastic material. It caused all kinds of electrostatic issues with the robots. There were lots of problems, people getting shocked literally on the field.
And we had to use a specific plastic wheel as
Yes.
well,
Which caused
which
more problems.
meant that we had effectively limited acceleration and pushing power.
Yes. So the idea was it was called regolith to simulate what it was like on the moon. Whatever.
40th anniversary.
Whatever. Another important thing though is that the radio for these robots goes from being the i5 system, a 900 megahertz, basically custom radio
Yeah,
solution, so sending serial data. We go from that to 802.11 systems, so the modern radios. So it's basically any Wi-Fi that you guys are familiar with. That's what we're essentially using at this point. So that's 2009. So
moving into
we're going to skip a bit in 2015.
Nothing important happened in 2012. Nothing. Don't look it up. There was not a tornado at championship.
Nope, didn't happen.
Here we've got almost 3,000 teams, 2,892. And this is the introduction of the Robo Rio. This is the control system you guys know and hate. I'd say love, but nobody loves it. CAN became a first-class citizen. In 2009, we were allowed to use CAN. We had to make all our own cabling, and we had to use an adapter to go and actually talk to it.
Well, you could talk to it over serial, but it was awful. Or you could go with the across the road route and look at the Toucan that they actually, I think it was their first product officially. So what was
Their first one was the USB adapter.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
And CAN became a first-class citizen. So it's a real thing, and it works out of the box and actually works. We've got a new control board, a power distribution panel, and power regulator, all created by Crossroad Electronics. And I have to let Marshall talk about extreme cheesecake.
I do. So this is 900 in our little bit in the history book that is first. To my knowledge, we are the first team at this point in time to have completely undergone basically
At
championships, to be clear. We are the first team to take our robot and literally kick it to the side. In fact, what we did was we crated it after scavenging the Robo Rio off of it. And we put the Robo Rio onto a kit bot that we actually purchased from Andy Mark online. And they delivered to our pit. I mean, Austin, my co-mentor at the time, followed them out to the truck they have and got it from them immediately along with the pneumatics kit. And we put it all together in the pit. There's a video online, YouTube, go look it up, that we put together. It's us building this thing. So we called it, I think, Robot in 7 hours, which is about how long it took. It took about 7 hours. Myself, about 5 students from our team, along with probably another 5 or so from 1114 who helped create this monstrosity. So we put together the kit bot, the actual little robot that's in the middle of that thing, and then they put together these pods, which were kind of cool. They're harpoons, literally. The plan was to shoot them at the trash bins in the middle of the field to get them before the other team could. And
hopefully not kill any of them.
Hopefully not kill anyone in the process. It wouldn't have killed anyone. We test fired it, and it did work. But it basically would grab the bins and then create a monstrous mess of crap everywhere, and it would have been highly entertaining if we'd ever used it. I'm really glad we didn't, because it's not necessarily the kind of entertainment I want. But it was still fun to build. By far the craziest thing I think I've ever done. Certainly the craziest thing the students that were involved, I think, have ever done at this point too. So.
The second most exciting match of 2015.
Yeah.
The first being when we dragged 2052 across the field.
There you go.
Oh yes,
it
was a divided field. You did not interact with the other alliance at all.
Yep.
The only interaction was those cans.
Yep.
Well, the team I was on, we grabbed a can, and 2052 grabbed the can as well. We had a better drivetrain. 2052 came across their entire landfill, across the central barrier, and across our landfill.
Which I think they got penalized for.
They got red carded for
Yes. So,
Because they weren't allowed to cross that barrier.
so
And the second their wheels touched carpet, the entire red alliance was red carded.
yep. So
But that was the only instance of that happening in that year. But this was the first really heavily themed game that FRC has released. Yeah, there's been, okay, this is the basketball game, this is the soccer game. But this is the first one where FRC really went in and said, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do recycling. It starts the kind of the themed games revolution that we've seen. Also note, how many championship events should there be? Does anyone have an opinion on that one? There's no wrong answer if you have an opinion.
I'd probably say 4, that way, like one team has to travel so far. Like you have one group, there's only a team.
So up till this point, we only had one. It was a true championship event. You won it, you were the champion. This year, FRC announced to everyone at once, including the RDs and the people that actually run the events, that we were going to have 2 championships starting in 2017. There was a lot of backlash. It was not a happy time.
Did they revoke it or no?
Nope, we'd have 2
we still have
championships.
to. So that's why we go to Houston.
Unacceptable.
That's why we go to Houston now, and why some teams are going to be going to Detroit.
Things I want you guys to know, the extreme cheesecaking and the 2 champs, because those are going to come up in the next 27 years of FRC that we're going to go over.
All right, so team count 2,892. This is 2015. Let's talk about 2018. We're going to talk about it. You'll notice the timeline has now stopped. We're now into the future. Welcome to the future, everyone. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I have with me that I actually get to talk about, which are kind of cool. So, one, if you guys haven't heard about it, and I don't think it got talked about by Kevin in the vision talk that he did earlier for us, this is the Javoy, I don't know however you say it, it's French. So, this is a tiny little camera. This guy has OpenCV running on it. You can do vision recognition on it, and you can output data. So this is a camera, works just like a USB webcam. If I plug it into my laptop, I could open up FaceTime, and I could FaceTime with it, and it would recognize objects while it's FaceTiming. So that should blow your minds. So it's this big. So the fan on it is insanely loud, but it's really
very loud.
So
You will hear it over the rest of your robot. It's that bad.
So you'll notice that as the zebra corns, we have both the black and the white version. They do come in other colors. So
I have an orange one.
Play the fan. I want to hear the fan.
How much do you guys think this costs?
$2,000.
Yeah, I was getting $20.
Does anybody actually like have a real guess? $20 is reasonable. Anybody else? So $50.
$50 shipped.
It's not $2,000.
$50 shipped.
Oh.
To you the next day.
To you next day from Amazon. There you go. Thanks, Jeff. Love what you're doing. So anyway, this is the Javoy, however you want to say it. It's really cool. You can take grip code. Somebody actually on Chief has figured out how to load grip code out of the grip application and port it to this directly. It's really cool. If you want to do vision, I
just picked one up to play with it because it's so cheap. It's a great learning platform.
We use a lot of stuff. We play around with a lot of technology. I'm so wickedly impressed by this. So, but that's not all I have to play with.
Wickedly.
I also have this guy. So this is also a camera. This is called the Limelight. This is not out yet. Officially, it's still in beta. This is from the High Rollers, Team 987 out of Las Vegas. It has a bunch of LEDs. It's got a camera built into it, and it has a software package. It also has an Ethernet port and a USB port for like upgrades and stuff and some power. What's really cool about it though is the fact that it's just plug and play. So you plug this into your radio, you plug the other end into the Robo Rio, and you treat it like a camera the way you would anything else. But it does all the things. It runs really fast. It's very comparable to that, except the frame rate or the resolution is actually higher. But I don't know what the price is yet. They haven't actually announced it. They're still doing beta testing, so we're actually testing it for them. I don't know. I can pass this around. I'm curious as to what you guys think of it. Like, what would be the price point you would be willing, your teams might be willing to pay for something like this? If I told you all you had to do was plug it in and go, and instantly you could have vision recognition. I mean,
$2,000.
is that your just $2,000?
I think 2,000.
I think 2,000 is what he's got. That's all he's got. All right.
$2,001.
See, we're not playing prices right on this one.
on another invention recently. There's a smart
Legitimately,
water
like
bottle.
a couple hundred.
Yeah. That's okay.
Okay.
Couple
and
hundred
it,
though,
It
probably.
has the capability to detect any type of to network and other people online,
Yep.
You guys
plug
see
into
that.
it. So it's about $300. So that's its function. So I'm gonna say
150.
no more than $300.
I don't know what they're going to charge for. Is what I'm going to tell you. I genuinely I can't tell you because I don't know. 150. I think 150 is probably a pretty good price point for something like this. The software for it, it's literally a web page. You go there, you adjust some sliders, you click a couple of boxes. It sends values back to the robot for where you can find a target. You cannot at the moment get anything similar that I know of. So
That's just kind of where we're going with the future of vision and FRC.
So I'm going to leave these. You guys are welcome to play with them and hold them, pass them around.
Please don't break them.
Don't try not to break them.
Yeah.
So the limelight is on loan from 987.
This next point is kind of the interesting one.
And
For years, people have been saying brushless is never going to come to FRC. And we've been using brush motors since the beginning of FRC. It's
yeah, done since 92 in fact.
And you know, the big benefit of brushless motors is typically they are stupidly high power density. They're very small and they have a lot of power in them. So when first announced that we were getting a brushless motor available this year, everyone thought we were going to get, you know, a little brushless outrunner screamer with some stupid high power density that weighed nothing. But we got the Nyack.
We got this. So this is the first brushless motor for FRC. Some of you might be wondering what the difference between a brushed motor and a brushless motor is. Inside of this motor, there are windings and there's a stator and there's a bunch of other stuff. The basic differences come down to the fact that a brushless motor is a little bit more controllable and a lot more efficient. So these motors have the potential to output a lot more power in a smaller space than what we currently have on a robot. This is an interesting example of a brushless motor. I will tell you that you'll notice some wires hanging off the end of it. 2 of those are power, the rest are actually for control. This has a built-in control system built into it. So the bits back here are actually a control system for it. So it's kind of like having a motor plus a Talon or a Victor or whatever, the Spark or whatever you got. It's the same kind of setup. You've got both components. This is actually from FIRST. So 900 is a beta team. We were one of the teams that was chosen by FIRST to actually play with this motor as well, which is kind of cool. So that's why I had it there and hand it around.
Now at this point, as of Friday night at 1 a.m.,
Yeah.
where we're running this,
Yeah.
we are at 3,608 registered teams in FRC this year.
That's for this year.
So now we're really moving in the future.
We're getting ready. Everybody ready? So we got the time machine. We're ready to go. The
So
future.
This is our future.
So-
This is a prediction of team growth for the next 25 years. Anyone have some concerns?
No.
No
Can I
concerns?
guess how many teams there might be?
You're in the future. Keep
In the
that.
future, yeah, you can guess. How many?
45,000.
What's our next year?
What's our next year? I don't remember. So let's go for it.
So we're in 2022.
So we've skipped ahead. We're at 2022.
How do you get all this information?
That's like
about
Back
yours?
into the Future.
How did you get all this information about years and teams?
That's like Back to the Future.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I am a
Humphrey.
huge data nerd. I have been tracking this sustainability.
You take
problem.
you take the data growth from the past years and predict the next year.
Back to the Future.
So this is the prediction though.
This is all a prediction.
Yeah.
Back
We
to
don't
the future.
actually
We
have
have
time
no
machine.
time machine. This is-
Right.
That you know of.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've seen 900 software. I would not get any time machine.
I would. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't get.
I've also
time
seen
machine.
his driving.
I
I wouldn't
would.
do that either.
I want to see for yourself. I want to see how
We'll
it
just see what
looks.
happens.
Okay, so we're in the future, and the point of this talk is to kind of bring up to you guys some of the problems that we're going to see in the really not so distant future of FRC. A lot of this is satire. It's meant kind of as a joke. We don't know what's going to happen, but you know, I want you guys to start thinking about it because
You guys are. I know it might not seem like it right now, but you are the future of this program, one way or another. Just like Andrew and I were back in 2000, whatever. So yeah, thank you.
So,
thank you.
in 2022, we are predicting that Woody Flowers is going to announce his candidacy for President of the United States, citing the lack of gracious professionalism in politics.
Yep.
That's
really funny.
2022 is when he announces he'll be running in 2024. Before anyone tries to correct that, I did think about it. I really did, actually. I picked this year specifically for this.
All right. We think that the 2 champs is going to actually move to 4, and what is known as the Festival of Champions right now is going to move to a much larger event with a lot more teams. That's our best guess.
How many teams are at the Festival of Champions?
6, no, 8.
8 at the moment.
There's currently 8. When we go to 4 champs, or if we go to 4 champs, there'll be 32.
Yep. At which point it moves to a round robin, and we're back to kind of where the other events leave off. Qualcomm, our lovely sponsor for FRC and a sponsor of 900, in fact, so thanks Qualcomm, releases a custom radio with an integrated battery. That's important. How many people have had a radio disconnect on the field? I have.
Or how many people were in the
I'll
FTA talk hearing about all the
the
terrible
FTA
things
talk.
that can happen to it?
So one was nice to point out that lots of bad things can happen. So at some point we will go back to where we were in the IFI days, the past points forward, I guess. So we will go back to a custom radio. It won't be 900 megahertz. I don't think so anyway.
Radios.
I suspect it'll probably be some sort of combination of 2.4 to 5 gigahertz, probably just outside of the normal 5 gigahertz spectrum for unlicensed stuff. But anyway.
So then, how many times have you guys built your drivetrain and realized, crap, we're in a mechanism. Crap, I forgot to integrate an encoder into this.
None.
Or maybe you don't integrate an encoder. Maybe you don't have an encoder to put on there. Maybe you didn't put one for whatever reason.
I'm poor.
But, well, that's kind of the issue is you run into this. And, well, I'm buying this motor, and then I have to buy an encoder. And I don't know anything about buying encoders.
Yep.
Well, it may surprise you, but FLL has had encoders on their motors since the early 2000s.
Yep.
Every motor in FLL has an encoder built into it.
So FTC's slowly
FTC's
heading that direction. I don't. Are they now? I guess.
Yeah, 'cause it's the never rest and the HD hexes at the end of the
Right. I
cloud.
think. Yeah.
So yeah.
So we're to a point now where FRC is going to start doing this. The Never Rest got introduced last year from AndyMark. It's technically an FTC motor, but it does have an integrated encoder. AndyMark's also selling a lot more motors with integrated encoders. Our suspicion is that as things continue to progress, as the technology improves and things get cheaper, we're going to start to see, and motors get a little more specialized for FRC, we're going to see more encoders integrated into these motors. In fact, a lot of the wires coming off of this thing, it's not an encoder technically it's a tachometer, but it's close enough. I'll give it to them for right now because it's what we got, but the idea being that you have a sensor integrated for determining the direction and the speed of the motor.
So then we add in the withholding allowance. Does everyone know what the withholding allowance is? You're allowed to bring 30 pounds of custom parts into every event.
So you bag the robot and you get 30 pounds, right? So that's actually that cheesecake robot that we made back in 2015. That robot was built shockingly with COTS parts, the Kiddo Parts chassis. It was built with a pneumatics kit and then 30 pounds of parts that were brought in. The rest of it was fabricated at the event from raw stock material and was brought in as custom, common off-the-shelf stuff, COTS.
So we're already seeing teams abuse this.
Yep.
558 has become notorious for rebuilding their entire robot.
They do.
2 years in a row now. They bag a robot, they compete at it with their first event, and by their second event, they have fielded an entirely different robot. And I don't mean the superstructure. I mean a new drivetrain.
Wait, that's not legal?
It
That
is
is
legal.
perfectly legal.
Really?
Because
Yes.
they do it with 30 pounds of custom components.
And you even know that?
No, I didn't think that after you put it in the bag, you can touch it. The whole.
You can't touch it until you get to the event, but once you're at the event, you have 30 pounds to play with, and then you can bring in
anything you fabricate at the event.
But you can add 30 pounds to it?
Well, you're still limited by your weight limit, but you could bring in 30 pounds of custom parts. And 30 pounds of custom parts is, if we're being honest, probably more custom parts than is on the average FRC robot.
It's a lot. It might not seem like it, might seem like a quarter of your weight, but the reality is if you take out all the stuff, all the fasteners, they're not custom. All of the off-the-shelf motors, pneumatics, fittings,
controllers,
tape,
none of it counts.
whatever, none of that counts. The only thing that counts is the stuff you custom fabricated towards that 30 pounds, right?
And if you can
Everything
make it at
else
the
doesn't.
event, it counts even less.
And if you're a district team, if you can make it during unbag time,
Yep.
it doesn't count. So when we unbagged a robot for districts, if we need to make a part, we'll start it or try and get it done in that 6-hour or however long window we've got when we unbag to try and fit it in the bag so that it doesn't count towards our weight limit later.
So this is only going to get worse. By 2022, we're expecting teams to regularly be rebuilding entire robots.
Yep.
And I don't mean they added can grabbers or they iterated their shooter or their intake. An entirely different robot is going to go on the field regularly.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, I threw this in here. So RAO, specifically reasonably astute observer, is the term that the handbook, the manual, uses to describe who gets to determine what a second robot is. So teams are only allowed to have one robot in an event, according to a reasonably astute observer.
which, for the record, is another 900 problem.
What? No, I had nothing to do with it.
He
no,
totally didn't bag 2 robots.
We did bag 2 robots. That rule is ours. We bagged 2 robots. We showed up at an event with them. One was a robot. The other one we claimed to be a well-assembled set of spare parts. We did use both. One on a practice field and one on the real field. It was a lot of fun. We got shut down, and then actually we got let to do it because it wasn't against the rules. It is now. Don't do that. But I do think it's going to get tested by other teams. I think that this rule is one of those rules where nobody quite understands how far you can push it right now. From my experience doing this, both in 2015 with the crazy cheesecake robot and in 2016 when we took the 2 robots to Palmetto, both times the people involved who were making the decisions as to whether it was legal or not were very concerned about the Robo-Rio and where the Robo-Rio had ended up. I'm not saying the Robo-Rio is the thing that makes the robot. I'm saying that that's the experience we had with it. That might be the case. That might not be the case.
Weird stuff is going to start happening.
Yep.
Because teams are going to be pushing this factory.
Yep. And this little bit here's my joke. So I'm on Chief Delphi. I'm very vocal. I have been very vocal about getting rid of the bag for robots because I feel like it should go away. We've had it for far too long. I will continue to feel like it should go away. However, there are some people within the upper echelons of the FIRST
You
community.
could just say it. The Woody Flowers Award winners.
Yes. Well, you know, I'm being polite. So the people whose opinions matter more than mine, which is sad.
Everyone.
Everyone has an opinion that matters more than mine, but that's how it works. Sadly, they don't want the bag to go away. Or at least they have their reasons for not wanting it to go, for keeping it. I don't understand them truthfully, but that's me. I'm very vocal about the fact that I think it needs to go away.
When you
So,
say you want the bag to go away,
I want you guys, when you build a robot, if it were up to me, if Marshall were king of the universe for a day, which no one would ever let happen in their right minds, but if it happened, and I could do this, I would make the bag disappear. You would never bag a robot. You would build up until you go to an event, and you would continue building, you would continue iterating, and you would continue doing things, because quite frankly, there's so little difference between 6 weeks and 7 weeks, or 8 weeks when you go to your first event, typically, that it matters not. I don't think that 2 weeks of putting a robot in a bag is doing us any good right now. In fact, I think it hurts a lot of teams who don't have the funding and the resources to make 2 robots. We make 2 robots. 125 makes, no they don't.
125
They
not
don't,
two
but they go to between
125
events.
goes to
weird.
more events than
So-
anyone in FIRST. We regularly hit 100 matches before championship.
Fine, 16 makes 2 robots.
16 makes 2 robots, 323 is making 2 robots.
Anybody, for the most part, a lot of teams do it. It's the dirty little secret that nobody likes to talk about. 1678 makes 3 robots.
Yep. A lot of California teams are up to 3 and 5 robots these days.
I mean,
At once.
why?
So what they end up
can.
doing is they hand one robot goes in the bag,
Yep.
another robot goes to the drivers, another robot goes to the programmers. So the drivers are getting drive practice, the programmers are getting their software development.
I mean, think about that, right?
For
Can
3
you,
weeks.
Can you guys imagine if your team had 3 of the same robot? Like, you'd get a lot more done, right?
It would be easier.
Yeah, it would be, right? But
And then
the
if
best,
breaks, you can just use the other.
the best I think we're ever gonna get is if the bag really goes away. If the bag goes away, then suddenly you don't have to build 3 robots, and it's wasteful, man. Oh my goodness, I don't even know how much money we waste every year building a second robot. It's insane. But
So we should push.
yeah,
22.
yeah. So
Anyway,
Anyway.
Point of reference, team numbers are gonna hit 10, or 5 digits, 10,000
you might know why that's
within 2
important.
years.
I don't know, because it's gonna start breaking some stuff for
The
the
FMS
field.
won't handle it.
There's some other things too. Right now the field
Because the
system.
displays only count 4 numbers.
Yeah.
Now, fun fact,
There's a lot of stuff like
TBA will still work. The
Yep.
Blue Alliance will still work. There's nothing hard-coded for the number of digits in there.
That's
I
interesting.
checked the other day.
I didn't. That's interesting. I didn't know that. That's good. They've planned.
They've planned.
They've planned. I don't know.
Wait, one question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What Woody Flowers win?
We don't know. Hold on. Hold that.
Hold on,
thought.
this gets worse.
It gets worse. Don't worry. All right. So we're in 2027. Okay. So
The Cayman hegemony has established Dumpling Island, which for those of you who don't know, Dino Cayman owns Dumpling Island. It's a little island off the coast of New Hampshire. He has officially declared as an independent nation already.
it is a sovereign territory.
It's not recognized as a sovereign territory, but he declared it as such.
I think, but didn't Bush do something?
I
for it
maybe
or something?
did.
I thought he did. I don't know.
So he has declared it as a nation founded on education and mutual respect.
All right. So we're up to 8 championships at this point, but we're back to the old bracket for Einstein. Why do we have 8 championships? Because it makes a lot of sense. So
I basically took the number of teams that we're predicting we'd have, and I divided by how many teams we had, and we went to 2 champs.
yeah. So
That's 8 champs.
by the way, we're almost 5,500 games
Yeah,
at this point.
this is a lot of teams.
So SLA batteries, they're sealed lead acids batteries we use today. They are likely going to get replaced at some point by this lithium iron
It's a lithium
something.
iron phosphate.
There we go. So it's a more stable battery. It provides more power. In theory, it'll last a lot longer. Because right now, if you guys don't know, the SLAs go bad after like 3 years or so, give or take.
They also tend to only last 1 match. So the catch with the lithium iron phosphates is they will typically cost 3 to 5 times what the SLA batteries cost, but they'll also last 3 to 5 matches between recharges. So you will need less batteries.
Yep.
The downside is because they are a lithium battery, if you charge them incorrectly, they can explode.
They're a little more stable. Though.
They are more stable than lithium polymers. If anyone wants to watch a series of really fun YouTube videos, go search for lithium polymer battery explosion. I may do this once or twice a week because it's just there's new ones all
They
the
are.
time.
They are.
They blow up really easily. I blew up a few myself. Don't be anywhere near when it happens.
So kind of hard to tell, but that's an actual brushless motor. That's off of, well, I don't know, probably a quad copper
It's
motor.
a 2006, so it's a 250 series quad.
Yeah, so it's, tiny motor, but enough, 4 of them are enough to lift the quad rotor.
That's a 300 watt motor, I
Yep.
guess.
Probably.
The Sim is a 235 watt motor.
Yeah,
Yep.
close enough. So, anyway, the main drive motors are going to become these things. I know it's hard to believe, but we're heading there. So, championship events will be renamed to Super Regionals. So the actual championship will go back to Festival of Champions, which he'll probably keep as Festival of
Yeah, it's actually a better
Champions.
name than
It is.
championships.
Better. So,
Um,
WPI Live is probably going to become a module for ROS, and I say that kind of joking, but also not. I've talked to a lot of the WPI Live developers at championships when we go, and a lot of these guys, they're grad students and volunteers and people who want to do ROS development anyway. You might know what ROS is. It's the Robot Operating System. It's not actually an operating system. It's a terrible name, but it's a platform. It's a series of ideas and frameworks and rules around how to talk between different things. It's important for WPI Live to go there and become a module because that's where a lot more things are going to go. It's right now, if you're in the academic world and even to a certain extent doing robots professionally, yeah, it's becoming the thing that you're using to develop off of. So it's a way to program robots, but it doesn't care about the programming language. It's more a series of, it's a framework for how to interact with things.
it's a language. You
Yeah.
talk between it.
Yeah.
You know, Marshall knows how to do X, I know how to do Y. Now my robot knows how to do X and Y because it knows how to talk to robots.
Yep. So it's the idea that you can marry a bunch of different things that are very different together. So like a chassis and an arm, or a chassis and arm and a claw, and a chassis and arm and a claw and a vision system, and all the things that an FRC robot needs. So I say this, 900, we're doing a lot with ROS. I don't know that we're doing it right. I'm not telling you this because I think we're doing it right. I'm telling you this because genuinely this is where industry is headed, and FRC does follow industry. So
okay, so push. So at this point, Dumpling Island has, yep, we are now 25 years in the future.
So we're at the 50-year mark at this point.
Dumpling Island has now seized the United States. The Woody Flowers Award winners have all been installed as a replacement for Congress, which won't really change all that much. In Congress, it'll be a bunch of white guys.
But what is interesting is we're almost 86, a little over 8,600 teams. International teams probably equal the U.S. teams. Right now, U.S. teams are by far the majority of teams. At some point, that's likely to change.
The fun question for you guys: how many of you ever wondered, if this team is in China, how do they read the manual? It's in English.
Translated?
They learn English.
They have to learn English.
Really?
FIRST does not provide translated manuals.
Nope.
Because
They're racist.
There are teams. No.
Well, the problem is this is where they're going to have to start addressing that. As what languages do we support? At some point, we're going to stop going and having everything spec'd in inches and pounds. We're going to go metric eventually. We have
I'm
to.
surprised we aren't metric, because most of the world uses metric system.
Yeah.
Why aren't we metric now?
The United States, political reasons, you'd have to ask them.
Political reasons involving Jimmy Carter.
So why do we have to go metric?
Because the rest of the world is, and eventually, international teams that use same measurement systems are going to outnumber the United States teams.
One solution is to put out manuals in different measurement systems and to spec different things.
Like recipes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean that is one possible way of doing it. I don't genuinely we're joking. We don't have a real crystal ball. But Sure, that's right.
Like math,
Keep believing us. That's all that I know. We forgot when we took the time machine into the future to figure out how they're going to handle these things.
The
but
weird
we
thing
know they're
about
happening.
this is we do predict that in 2042, the numbers say that we could have more international teams.
It's a possibility. It's strong.
But what I don't take into account when I do that prediction is I have no idea how saturated the United States market is right now.
Yeah.
So it may be entirely possible that most of this growth that we're expecting to see is going to be fueled by international teams.
Yeah.
So just things to take into account when you start moving outside of your neighborhood and your state. There's a whole world out there, and FIRST plays in it.
Yep.
For reference, this is actually Dumpling Island.
That is.
So it's a completely sustainable, self-sustained island. There's no power going into it. It's zero emissions. It's actually really cool. I don't know if they do tours, but if they do, you should probably totally go because Dean Caden's house is awesome. I can't imagine what his island is.
So 16 super regionals at this point. So 16 championships. So that are feeding the Festival of Champions. So through qualification rounds and everything else. So it's become a big thing.
We are effectively now back at one championship event that is fed by a bunch of other events.
No,
We're not there. We're not there.
No. It's a Festival of Champions.
How far are you going, future?
This is it.
This is 50 years.
Go
This
for
is
the
it.
years.
Say, some of us won't be here.
You guys will totally.
You guys will be
So-
here.
All right. So Ross is going to
I
be.
know you'll be there
ROS.
with your time machine.
Oh yeah, we'll be there. Don't worry. We'll there. Like, hey, I know those guys. ROS is going to be utilized by a large number of teams at this point. So, and it's going to be the common framework and the modules that end up making this work. So right now, you wanted to go use some code from the GG Boots. You have to make sure your robot is written in Java. You have to get the exact bits of code you want. You have to pull them out. You have to make sure they work with the stuff you have, that your robot is set up similarly, or you have to make changes to their code.
And as someone who has done that for a couple of years, it really stinks.
It's not fun. We borrow code all the time from other teams and look at how they do things so we can learn and try and improve. And it's terrible. But with ROS, The magic is that you grab code from somebody else, you stick it on there, and it sends out data. So it plugs into something and it starts sending out data. And it might have some parameters you can tweak, and then that's the end of it. You don't care what it's written in. You don't care that it's in Java and your robot's in LabVIEW or C or Rust or Python or I don't even know, whatever, Swift, whatever the latest and greatest programming language is at the time that everybody has decided they want to use. It matters not to me. What matters is that it is a module and it plugs in and it works. So you guys are like, oh my god, that sounds awesome. It's coming.
I think they're all asleep at this point.
They are probably all asleep. You guys are like bored out of your minds.
So we can get the part where we start yelling.
Alright, so this is the stuff that never happens.
This is still first board.
This is the first board of directors. You'll notice a lot of old white dudes. No, it's not actually a picture of first board of directors. Literally the first image that popped up in Google image search when I searched for board of directors. But you'll notice there's no young people on there. There's no FRC alumni appointed on this board. And I hate to say it, but at the moment I really do feel like we're probably never going to get a voice there, and I think that's terrible. I hope that changes. I really do. I hope you guys prove me wrong. I hope one of you comes back and says, Marshall, you are an idiot and you are wrong.
We have ticked off enough people that they're...
We can't. I'm unhireable. Like,
yeah,
I'm lucky
they at this point
VMware
look at
has
us and
hired
say,
me.
oh crap, they're coming. This is a bad thing, hide.
So, FTC has easy way to play FTC.
Is anyone that's actually really adamant about FTC being awesome? Because if so,
No, it's weird.
you may want to leave
It's
the
weird. No, it is weird.
It was funny because we were at, I think it was either Thor or Screw, and while FRC was playing, they had an FTC match going on. And we were like,
Oh, was it Pembroke?
I
Was it
know,
Pembroke?
it was
That's alright. I know what you mean, though. Yeah.
And
You're like, I don't understand what's going on. The
what
robot's
happened,
this little tiny robot.
and one of my team members was like, it's funny how their actual competition is a sideshow to our off-season.
Yeah.
And it was there, and that was it.
Yeah,
I don't
FTC
get
does
it.
not make spectator-friendly games, which is sad because FTC could be really awesome.
Anybody watch the trailer, the teaser? Go watch the teaser for FTC this year. It's literally like someone telling you, and these robots need to do this, and then they need to do this, and then they need to do this. Wouldn't it be awesome if they did this too, and this, and this, and this, and this? It's like, what? Who can do all of this? Like, this is insane, and it's a robot that's a quarter the size of what we build.
Yeah. Well, unless you're 125.
Yeah,
which
whatever.
case it's the same size.
Yeah, it's true. Genuinely, I don't understand FTC. It's not bad. Don't get me wrong. It presents some interesting challenges to solve, but they gotta work on game design.
Yeah.
So.
This next point is here mostly. Matt Lithgow is someone on 2363.
So we are being recorded, I will point out, and we can just tell
Okay, so
Matt.
we're sending it to him.
I'm just gonna
Matt, you're annoying.
You're annoying. We put a picture of you in here. But it might as well be. He's in a romper. No.
Just
So,
get him wrong.
things that are also never going to happen. The Supercars are going to build a simple robot.
It's not going to happen.
But
Also,
who's
these
recording?
ones working at their first event. also
Never going to
gonna
happen. Never going to
They're just
happen.
recording
So,
songs.
Yeah, we're recording
There-
this.
yeah, we are recording it. Don't worry. So denim is cool.
Dean Kamen holds the world record for most consecutive days wearing denim. It's still
Does
not
he?
cool.
Does he actually?
Yes, he does.
Oh my god.
How many consecutive days is that?
It's still going.
Who knows?
Yes, the world
So-
record.
Yes.
So all right.
He's worn denim every year, every day since I started this program.
When did you start this program?
2003.
Yeah, I'm not wearing that. I'm not gonna try
Now,
to.
no one wants to challenge that. No one.
No comment.
Anywho.
Yeah, all right.
okay.
Do it. Do it. Start tomorrow.
So,
Not today. No, I don't know.
We've
It's
actually
already-
had a
it's
lot of
like
fun
artist.
going through the future and what's going to happen and some of the problems we see, but I really want to point out a few small problems. And by small problems, I mean glaring issues on why FIRST can't scale. This is a plot of, you'll recognize that blue line behind it is the team growth line.
Yep.
The orange bars in front of it are how many events, regionals or district events, we have at this time. Prior to 2017, 2018, I have the actual numbers, but this is the prediction. Does anyone want to take a guess at what a field border costs? Just a border.
You can look it up.
You can also look it up at
A
any
field border?
Yeah, what's a field border?
$2,000.
You're off by an order of magnitude.
You are off by order of magnitude.
It is a $21,000 border. The field is probably another 40 or 50,000. I haven't been able to find a solid number on that. So we're talking 60,000 a field. Right now, FIRST owns about 30 fields.
The hell?
So you're talking 1.8 million in fields alone. What happens when I get here? FIRST is now a field management company. That's all they do.
You are talking literally. I mean, I work in IT. I do a lot with businesses all over. And at that point, it's a small business operation. And I say small, it's not actually, because it's a manufacturing business, and that's a whole complicated thing. But it's a whole logistics operation to manufacture that many fields every year and get them out in time to all of the places that they have to get to.
So this breaks. To be honest, this breaks here.
Yeah.
There's no way that FRC is going to be able to scale out, which means you guys are going to get less and less events every year.
Look at that picture though.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, it's so many
Oh my God.
words. It's actually a picture of me now.
Yeah.
Futurama.
So, but we're getting to a point where it doesn't scale. We've got 6 weeks of qualifying events right now. So there's already evidence of this, right? I don't know what games you guys remember, but this past year it was the springs, right? Anybody remember going to an event and they had the springs and they were droopy? Yeah, and they didn't have the springs to replace them.
It was good buy them. They were sold out everywhere.
I had one in this, and the spring was broken. I was like, I had a spare one
Yeah.
from World that they just handed out, and I was like, oh yeah, let
Yeah.
me just bring mine in case it breaks, and I didn't break it.
Yep. No, so, but the thing is, McMaster-Carr, which is a big industrial supply company, literally ran out of these springs.
And they responded when we called.
Yeah.
Why the heck are people buying all these springs? We've had this in our inventory for 10 years. We've sold like 10. And we sold 10,000 today.
Yep. So they ran out. It took forever to get back in stock. It's a problem. 2016, everybody remember Stronghold? Stronghold, the defenses, the little pins for the defenses. So in particular, my team, we would go ram the rock wall and it would go flying off the field. But the little pins that held in broke very frequently. In fact, the first set they sent out with the field, they expected to last for a long time. They didn't last anywhere at all. Badly the first time we hit them.
4 matches?
Yeah, probably. So they switched to using shelf pins, little pegboard clips, in fact, from the local hardware stores. They would go around and buy them out at all hardware stores. Those are made of the finest metal recycled in China. Yeah, it's cheap metal, but those broke too. And they ran out, and they kept running out, and it was a problem in pins and bins, right? So 2015, the orange or green recycle bins, the recycle cans that were in the middle of the field, you couldn't buy them anywhere after kickoff immediately. Like, we ended up waiting forever, which it didn't matter for a lot of teams because they weren't concentrating on them. But we were. It mattered for us. We had to go find them. I ended up finding them at some supplier and having to make phone calls and place crazy orders and get a bank account and stuff. And it was a big mess.
So well, it boils down to, look at FLL. They have scaled. So FLL has actually hit
You guys have seen
explosive
FLL fields, right? The field for an FLL, it's literally 2x4 perimeter and a plywood top. So you can go to your local hardware store and you can buy all the components necessary to build the table for FLL. Can't buy the Lego components at Lowe's yet, maybe eventually. So a 3D printer maybe would take care of that for you. So,
Anyway, there's places you can look and maybe we can go differently, but we're eventually going to have to address it. So,
this is logistics.
who wants to take a guess at what this is?
The world.
Okay, I guess it's technically right.
It's a chart saying like how people get to the regional events.
Yeah.
This is all the regional travel for 2017 from every team in existence. There's a lot of really long lines on there, which means there's a lot of really expensive flights on there.
Yep.
Not for me. My mom works for the airlines.
Nice.
Well, not for him, but for everyone else.
It's expensive flights.
Let's look to the next slide.
$28 to China.
The problem is event locations don't often equal team locations. They're not well located for most teams. Whose travel event had their travel distances went up this year in North Carolina?
Anybody going further out for an event this year?
I mean, I can actually tell you all of yours did, by an average of about 30 miles.
It's okay though.
It's fine, it happens, but they did.
So I know ours did. So we don't have an event in the Triangle area this year. So we're having to travel further for ours. It's not bad. So it's good, in fact, I think, because it means that teams that normally don't get some exposure to local events that's within 15, 20, 30-minute drive, they have that advantage for a change. So it's good. I don't think it's bad. It's just travel distance doesn't go up and it fluctuates. And in particular, I think for a lot of the international teams,
yes,
it's really starting to go up as the number of non-district areas continues to shrink.
There's a huge waitlist problem. I guess most of you probably aren't on G if you haven't seen Michael Corsetto. This is a great drawing of griping about the fact that his team is willing to throw money at first and can't get into a second event.
Yeah. So
there just isn't an event.
The team we were talking about earlier that builds 3 robots, 1678, they had trouble actually getting into the second event this year. I mean, they could not register for one. They're on the regional system in California. They're not on the district system, so they're not guaranteed 2 events right off. So they have to register for one and then register for another. And basically they got shut out from it. I still don't know if they're on.
They're only one event so far.
That's insane.
Davin Poops, 971. Basically all the California powerhouses, one event.
Yeah. So I mean, seriously, imagine that. Like, it's not a district event; it's a regional event. So they've got to do well, or maybe they don't go on. So.
And travel, those long lines, except for him, they are very expensive. The average cost for some teams to travel is, thousands of dollars per student. I know Rembrandt's from the Netherlands. Their travel budget alone is $70,000.
Yep.
Because they fly over here, they do 2 events, they stay in a hotel the whole time.
Yep.
So let's move forward. So this is the problem you guys are going to hopefully help solve.
Yep.
A terrible drawing.
Old and we can't keep up with you guys anymore.
Nope.
It's already starting to happen.
Old, so.
But mentors really are what makes this program not terrible. The problem is they're really unequally distributed. So how many people have less than 5 mentors on their team, like adult engineering mentors?
How many you got?
We have we have mentors that aren't actually like.
That's okay. How many mentors do you have?
Adults.
2 adults.
2 so far. And they don't really know much about like programming or.
It's okay. I mean, they're gonna learn, so hopefully.
They're here, they're helping.
Well, they're great.
Awesome.
They're great. They're not like that. They're great.
No, I'm not disparaging any of the mentors. But so the team that I worked with up in Boston.
Boston? Are you a Patriots fan?
25.
Yeah.
Which team do you think is going to have more on-field success?
And that's not saying that it's not saying that you as a student are getting a lot out of the program, but it's certainly, I don't know, to me as a mentor, to me as the student who was on a team that did struggle because we didn't have mentors. Like we had basically 2, effectively 3 technically, but it was still tiny, right? A team of 15 kids when I was on it. To me, putting myself in those shoes, it was disheartening to go to an event and look at a robot that did exceptionally well, and the team had like 12 mentors and 40 students. Now we are the team with 12 mentors and 40 students, which is crazy. If you had asked me when I was a student if this was ever going to happen, I'd say we were nuts. But let alone me being in charge of it somehow. But here we are.
But they're horribly not equally distributed.
It is. It's not.
I don't want to solve that.
So
they tend to clump together. I mean, 148 has how many mentors?
yeah.
And then you get alumni. And alumni are kind of how we solve this mentor problem. You start looking at it, we're both alumni. We're still back with programs. I know half my judging crew when I was up in Boston was alumni.
Yeah.
Most of the people running the events were alumni.
Which I'll put in a plug. North Carolina, when you guys graduate, North Carolina has an awesome alumni association thing that we've just started.
Only one that exists.
No, there's a few. So, but whatever. The point, there's not many. There's no First Headquarters doesn't have an alumni program outright. I mean, they do. Michelle Wong's going to see this and like give them crap.
She is. She's going to get involved with that. I'm pretty sure she's building a book.
She does. Michelle does an amazing job
with what she has.
She does, but there's no program to try and get alums into mentoring specifically. So we need you guys, when you graduate, to go do college, get the degree, get done, do what you gotta do. If it's work, that's fine. Just start living your life, but at the same time, when it comes time, give back. So get involved, help make this better, and help solve this problem, because ultimately, and I think you guys know this, it's the mentors that make the difference in all of this. I mean, yeah, you're here to build a robot, and yeah, we want you guys to do it and everything, but at the same time, like, we work our butts off too, and we want you guys to be successful. So we're here to make that happen. We're passionate about it the same way you guys are.
That's kind of the problem with mentorship. So some final thoughts. First is going to grow. FRC is going to grow. And it's going to probably continue growing at the rate it's been growing. We see no signs of saturation. There's money still coming into the program. Our big problem is how it's going to grow. We can't have more, all people are Texas are going to be mad at me about this one. Texas, a couple of years ago, founded 30 rookies in 1 year. The next year, they founded 30 more rookies. The catch is, every single rookie from that previous year folded, 100%. We can't do that. It doesn't work. It's not scalable, it's not healthy, and it ruins the experience for all the students.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just the students, it ruins the experience. If they're based out of the school, it potentially ruins it for the school permanently, because administrators get involved and they go, that was a terrible program and a waste of money, I'm not doing that again. So, and administrators in schools, unfortunately, have a memory much longer than FRC teams, which is 4 years. I mean, at most FRC teams, the collective memory is essentially 4 years. So these problems don't get talked about the way they should, unfortunately, within our community. But at the same time, I don't know, we're getting to that point where we need to do more to make sure teams sustain growth. Like when a new team is started, it's around. Do you guys know the statistic is that within 3 years, so by the time a team reaches its third year, so a team is founded, goes through year 1, goes through year 2, between year 2 and 3, 50% of teams don't make it. Isn't that insane? Stop and think about that for a second.
So now, I know you didn't go to the judging panel because you don't want to be talked to about judging.
Yes.
Heck, no, I don't.
But, you know when the chairman's judges ask you how many teams you started? Your answer should be to point to this and say, 50% of teams fail between their second and third year. We've targeted those second and third year teams to keep them from failing. So we didn't start any teams, we've kept N number of teams.
So I'm going to tell you that 900, for a long time, we've not been a chairman's team. Last year was our first year seriously submitting for chairman. We've done it one other year because we had to, because the grant wasn't real. Last year's the first year we've ever done it. We did it without starting a single FRC team.
That's how neutrons are too.
And that was, to me, that was the big thing for me. Like, that was an experience. So to win that award based off of that. So
this is, I know we've joked around and we've had a lot of fun with, you know, the future and time machines and all of this. This problem isn't coming up. This problem happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, events stopped being able to scale effectively in 2007.
Why'd you say soon if it already happened?
That's the joke.
Oh. Haha, funny.
It's not. It's actually kind of sad. So, 2007, we started seeing teams not being able to go to events, having trouble getting into events.
It's true.
This conversation should have started a lot longer ago, but it hasn't. So, we need to start shifting this whole discussion from how do we grow to how do we grow in a sane way. What needs to change? So, you know, if I make a change from a field size and I've got $1.8 million invested in the field currently, I'm throwing that out. I change the field order size. Things get harder as you get bigger to change. You have inertia.
It's true. I mean,
Yeah.
so I used to work for IBM, and I'm not going to say anything bad about IBM. But what I will say is that as a company that has been involved in technology for over 100 years at this point, it's very difficult when you're inside of that machine of a company to make change happen. So processes are put in place and people adhere to them religiously to the point where nobody wants to change things even though they have to, because the technology has changed. The things have to change to make it better. So that causes problems. So
We need to start talking. So you can find this, well, after tomorrow, today, you'll be able to find this presentation at andymarkup.com.
So it's our right website. We're making fun of Andy Mark.
It's been a
Sorry,
really good
Andy.
joke. Yeah,
We like you, but
but it was just too good of a joke. We had to do it. You can download the presentation. You can download all of our supporting data. So all the models, all the predictions, all the data is there. You can give us feedback. There's some links to email both of us there.
Yep.
And if you have questions and you didn't fall asleep, kudos on that. that's gotta be a little more interesting.
Probably, I think so.
That's fine.
So, I don't know. What do
This is a presentation we've been wanting to do for 2 years, so.
We've been talking, genuinely, we've been talking about this for a while. I'm still game for doing this a chance
We should
and
refine
seeing, I think we can do it. We need to refine it a little bit, but, I mean, what do you guys think about this? Some of you are target audience, you are students, you are involved in the program, but at the same time, you know, we obviously tailored it more to some mentors who are involved in the program as well. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, is it something where you're like, man, I never thought about it that way? Or is it something where, I don't know,
I really don't care about
boring, I don't care about any of this, I just want to build
wasting the
robots?
last hour of my life. We're not getting offended if you say that.
No, we're not at all.
That's
Well, I
actually
think-
important feedback.
So,
I'm gonna take a call.
all right.
Okay.
So,
So he regrets wasting an hour of life.
yes.
It was actually interesting in my opinion. I just left the other one, I found this one more interesting.
Cool.
But it was nice learning, like.
Which one
from
did
the
you
beginning.
leave?
Which
one did you leave?
I don't want to say it.
Oh, okay.
No, it was just a drive, wheels.
The drive
Not that it was not interesting, it was interesting.
We just told people like, oh, I know what you're talking about. You're like, what are you talking about?
Was it, is it worthwhile? I mean, is it something you guys as students who are in the program right now, you think you can relate to a degree? Like, I don't know if you guys see any of this, so.
I like learning about the past, the history of the first, but as far as the future goes, it's mostly speculation, other than the data, because there's, I guess, in the math, you
The
can
data's
find.
all speculation too.
I mean, it is.
I
It's-
guess you can find predictions, but a lot of it, I mean, it's just speculation.
It is. So we admit to that.
Most of that was in there to kind of give you some idea of where we should be going. It's kind of wish listing from Marshall and I.
Yeah.
You know,
We like
want first to start going in this direction
we
because
like technology. So I mean, that's the reality. It's not a funny coincidence that I have motors and cameras and toys to play with. Like we do this because we enjoy it.
I mean, you can look over on that chart there.
So that's actually I didn't really talk about that. I want to. So you guys heard of this dude named Gordon Moore? He came up with this thing called Moore's Law. So I know what Moore's Law is. So, it's Moore's Law, Kevin.
Oh, no, go
Oh no, you got. I'm sorry.
Go,
Raise
go.
your hand. Go ahead.
If I think I'm right, it's the law that could have bird technology will increase.
So what Gordon Moore did? Gordon Moore founded this tiny little company called Intel. So I'm sure you guys have heard of them. So they make little processors for things. Anyway, this Intel company. Gordon Moore came up with a rule. He noticed probably about, I don't know, 10 years post-founding, I think, from Intel.
it didn't take long.
It didn't take long, but he had some charts in front of him, and he went, huh, that's interesting. What he noticed was that the chips were shrinking in size, okay, and the number of transistors that was on the chip for the area that it was taking up was increasing, doubling, in fact. So does anybody know what happens when you double something, and you double it, and you double it again, and double it? What kind of curve? What's up with exponential? Let's go back to what's up with exponential growth? So that's kind of linear, but there's an inflection
Yeah,
point.
there's actually an exponential growth here,
Yeah.
but we predict it's actually going to linear out because
So
it has to.
hopefully.
Well, saturation happens.
Yes. So the thing about exponential growth, right, is that it's crazy. I mean, this is why we're in the age where we're starting to talk about cars that drive themselves, right? You go back to the 1950s, dead serious, you can go on archive.org and you can look up propaganda videos from the 1950s from like, what would a robot do for a housewife at home? And it's a robot flipping pancakes or whatever, right? And they joke about electric cars and flying things and this and that and whatever, but it's not really joking. It's their videos that were shot that do this. The thing is, though, none of that was real then. It's now all becoming reality. So we're legitimately starting to get these things, and it's making it interesting. So here's my question to you guys. We talked about 50 years of FRC history. We have yet, to my knowledge, to see a competitive, fully autonomous robot on the field. How long before it happens? And is it one of you guys that does it? That's my question. So, I don't have an answer to it. I think that kind of lends itself to this and explains Moore's Law. The reality is we're getting faster, better computers. So the next iteration, I mean, we've gone from 20,000 gates, 20,000 transistors on a chip for programming these robots to 180 million. How many on the next one? So
Did that 12 years.
So, in fact, we get it in 2020, so in 3 years we'll know the answer, give or take.
So some of the stuff's changing. It's going to be interesting. But
I don't
what
know.
I want to do with this talk is hopefully not more than that. But that's it.
Did you guys have fun? I hope. If you did, fill out the thing, let us know. We're happy to take feedback and criticism. I promise. So if we bored you to death, let us know that too.
Yeah.
So we want to know. So.
We actually care about this topic, so it's a topic we want to have people address, and if we're boring you to death, we're boring other people to death too.
Yep.
So you guys are guinea pigs.
I think you guys should keep doing this, not here, but like other events across, because I feel like it's very important to look back at the trends. Like, I didn't notice that like this stuff running out has been going on for 3 years. I thought it was just they should tell them, oh, we're all out of pegs now, but apparently they were out of pins and they're out of bins.
That's just, we went back 3 years.
Yeah, we went back. It's actually the game pieces and some other stuff. There's typically 1 or 2 things every year that are like that.
13, the Frisbees were hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
12, those basketballs were impossible.
Yeah.
11, it was a custom first supplied gate piece, and Andy Marquette had limited, you can only buy so many. 10, the particular soccer balls had a particular finish that you could only get in the United States, and oh yeah, they sold out immediately.
Yep.
9 was a game piece that was completely discontinued when they announced
So
the game.
it's funny though, it has mostly been game pieces.
Yeah.
It's only been in the last couple of years that the game pieces, kind of 2015 in fact, I'd say is the last game piece year where it was a problem. And even then not really, because most people were playing with the totes, and the totes were actually easy to get.
Never happened.
Yeah. And the bins weren't bad, like they gave one to everybody, so we use ours as recycling, and it's kind of funny. It says not a game piece on the top of it. But the field is now the thing that's the bottleneck. That's where I'm trying to go with this point. So we're starting to have issues with the field itself, not with the game pieces, and that's a more complicated problem to solve. And in fact, it should be more alarming because the field having issues, there are a lot less fields than there are teams, which means if we're having trouble getting pieces for the field, that's not good. It doesn't point to a sustainable, scalable solution for the field and where we take it in the future. And I don't, to me, as a person who's been on a team and mentors a team, I don't want to see the field shrink. And I don't want to see it made out of plywood. But how do you scale it? How do you scale it? And
We don't have an answer. A lot of this is we don't know.
So we're putting this out there partially so there will be a recording of it. It's partially to share it with other people and get feedback and get ideas. And
we're hoping they're smarter than us.
Yeah, we are. We're hoping people are smarter than us. Yes. So that's all we got, or all I got anyway.